Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Coming to you from Washington's premier indoor shooting facility. Of course, that's Security Gun Club right here in Woodinville, Washington. And this will be a video for the hometown crowd. Washington, here it is. We knew it was coming because if it's got the three-letter word tax in it, you know it's going to happen. This is House Bill 1386. This is an attempt by a couple of state legislators to impose a massive tax on purchasing any firearm component, or ammunition. Put other ways, it is a way to make access to your Second Amendment rights more and more cost prohibitive. So today, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about, here it is, Washington, your firearm and ammunition tax. Okay, Washington, and anyone else who wants to join in on our misery, today we're going to be talking about House Bill 1386, sponsored by Representatives Ty, and yeah, you guessed it, that's right, bills by Berry. Liz Berry, of course, is the sponsor of this. Now, we're going to talk about what this bill would do, what this bill would not do, and we're also going to talk about some of the legislative findings, because I will tell you that Miss Berry gets very creative with her legislative findings, but this time, well, she actually exposed some of the things that candidly they don't really want us talking about. What does this bill do? Simply put, the language of this legislation specifically states, there is levied and collected a tax upon each retail sale of a firearm, parts for a firearm, and ammunition at the rate of 11% of the selling price. That's right, it is an 11% sales tax. Does that supplant the other sales tax? No. This is Washington, okay? So that is in addition to any of the other taxes that you are paying. Now, what are they going to do with all of this new money that they believe they are going to raise? Well, the money would be earmarked as follows. The legislature intends for the revenue generated from the imposition of the tax imposed in Section 2 of this act during the 2025 to 2027 fiscal biennium to be appropriated to agencies and programs that are focused on gun violence prevention, including domestic violence prevention, suicide prevention programs, and victim services. Put other ways, you are going to be funding your own disarmament. Okay, so that's what the bill does. There's a lot of other parts of the bill about people who don't pay the taxes and how they're going to go about collecting them. I'm not going to bore you with that, okay? Here's what this bill does not do, okay? This bill does not mandate or dictate that Washington residents shall only be able to purchase ammunition through a licensed FFL. That is a piece of legislation that could still be coming. This bill does not require a background check to purchase ammunition. That bill, of course, could still be coming. So there is nothing in this particular bill that would preclude you from purchasing ammunition online. However, there is a strong belief that many online retailers are simply not going to be willing to sell to Washington residents for the simple fact that they're not going to build an extra calculator in there for Washington State's exclusive ammunition, firearm parts, or firearm taxes. So if you think that purchasing items online is going to somehow or another alleviate you from this tax burden, don't get too confident about that. But where we're going to end this video is actually at the beginning of the legislation, because I had mentioned earlier that Ms. Berry is very creative when it comes to her legislative findings. I want to share with you some of the legislative findings for this bill, and I want to talk to you about it, because the legislative findings state the following. Gun violence remains a persistent health and safety threat for people across our state. In Washington, a person is killed by a firearm every 14 hours. And nearly half of all suicides are from firearms. Okay, now I want you to just imagine for a moment that every 14 hours a drunk driver killed another person in the state of Washington. Would the legislative findings state that every 14 hours a person is killed by an automobile? No, it would not. It would say that a person is killed by a drunk driver because they are responsible for that death. But Miss Berry seems to think that the mere presence of firearms themselves, that these things just go on and they attack people all by themselves, that there's nobody behind the trigger at the time. Now, I also need to talk about a very sensitive subject here, which is suicide, because the legislative findings also point out data from the Washington Office of Firearm Safety and Violence Prevention show that in 2021, 69% of all firearm-related deaths were suicides. Okay, so I want you to understand, Washington, that according to the legislative findings in this bill, right here, 2/3 of all of the gun deaths that they use to justify all of this gun control legislation, which has been shoved down your throat, legislative session after session after session, 2/3 of those deaths are self-inflicted gunshot wounds. Now, why do I bring that up? Well, because there's always great debate amongst those on opposite ends of the spectrum here as to whether or not gun deaths are caused by an inanimate object, guns, or by mental health, okay? And there's other things, crime and poverty and a lot of other things that can contribute to it. But you see, when it comes to suicides, okay, and I make no light of this subject whatsoever, this is a very serious subject that we as a country are not dealing with as well as we could be, okay? But when it comes to suicides, I don't think there's any questioning that mental health was the contributing factor. Okay, the firearm was the mere method by which they chose to end their life. But the mental health issues that got them to the point where they are willing to do that, that clearly is the underlying problem. So Miss Berry, in her own legislative findings, is telling you that two-thirds of the gun deaths that they use to parade around to pass all of their new gun control legislation are actually the product, unequivocally, of mental health problems. Okay, now here's the really important thing, Washington. I need you to understand this. This bill just got published, but before the bill was even published, it's already scheduled for a hearing. And that hearing is Tuesday morning, okay? So listen up. There is going to be a public hearing Tuesday, January 21st, in the House Committee on Finance at 8 a.m. We're going to put the link down below so that you guys can sign up for it. Now, I need help, Washington. I need help because I'm going to be down in Las Vegas. I got all sorts of crap going on with SHOT Show. And candidly, we know the state legislature, they don't want to hear from a guy like me, but they do want to hear from people like you. So if you want to get into the fight right now, check out the link down below. I also encourage all of you to sign up for the Conservative Ladies of Washington's Legislative Action Center. We're going to link it up down below. They're going to be the ones that really, really keep you in tune, not only with all the crazy gun stuff going on in Olympia, but with all the insanity going on in Olympia. Okay, it is House Bill 1386. We're going to link it up down below so that you can geek out on that as well. If you got any other questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington Gun Law by now, but if you don't, that's okay. That information, it's down there in the description box. If you got an idea for a video we should be doing around here, you click on that link right there and you tell us all about it. If you want to subscribe to our monthly newsletter, the ability to do all of that is down there in the description box. And then finally, and most importantly, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.